If you made over $150,000 in the past year and you're still not able to pay yourself consistently, come here. This video is for you. I need you to hear this clearly. This is not a revenue problem. This is a structural problem, and more revenue will not fix it. It'll actually make it worse. I know that's probably what you don't want to hear, but stick with me. Now, the revenue trap includes the belief that the more clients that you make, the more that you increase your prices, the bigger your launch, you will finally have financial stability. You might be thinking, okay, if I hit these consistent $10,000 months, everything will even out. I just need one more consistent client. If this launch does well, I will finally feel okay. And to name it plainly, this is just a hamster wheel, AKA hustling backwards. So that means whenever you increase your revenue, your expenses increase right along with it, and your pay still feels inconsistent. I've watched businesses go from about 200,000 to 400,000 and feel more stressed at the $400,000 mark than at 200 because they're working just the same, if not more, but they're still getting paid last in their business. So it's not because you're not working hard enough, it's because the structure underneath is what needs to be fixed. And even if you have more clients, if you have poor pricing, that will not help your business. If you have a bigger launch with more ad spend, more marketing, but you're talking to the wrong audience, it won't fix your problem. If you increase your prices with, again, the wrong offer, then that still won't help. And if you feel like you need to create one more offer, that still may not solve the issue. So let's create a distinction between revenue and margin. Revenue is what comes in, margin is what you keep, AKA profit. So we know profit is what you keep in your business. I like to call it margin. So a financially healthy service-based business or even coaching practice needs to keep approximately 50% of their revenue before considering the owner's salary or their owner's compensation. So that's a benchmark that I go by. Most business owners have never even been told this number, let alone measure themselves against it. So in a past episode, I talked about the keep half principle. I'm not going to share the full lesson, but I'm going to just share the concept. The keep half principle involves the revenue that comes in and then your expenses that go out before your owner's pay shouldn't be more than 50% of your revenue, because what's left of that 50% after your expenses includes things like your owner's pay, putting money over for taxes, if you have debt, paying off debt, and overall just keeping cash inside your business. And if your business expenses are exceeding 50% of your revenue before you even pay yourself, again, you don't have the revenue problem, you have a structural, AKA your margin problem. And I'll share the link of that keep half principle at the bottom of this video. And let's go even deeper, okay? There is actually a stewardship issue at hand, because when your money comes into your business and leaves without intention, this becomes mismanagement. And stewardship, and I'm talking to myself here too, stewardship is being intentional with what you have already been given, not just aiming to continually increase it, okay? So in Luke chapter 16, Jesus tells us about the parable of the shrewd manager. We're not going to go over the entire parable. However, in verse 10, Jesus shares that whoever can be trusted with very little can be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. In verse 11, he shares, if you have not been trustworthy with handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? So that kind of read me for filth, right? If it read you for filth, I'm here with you, sis. Now, when it comes to managing money and then also striving to increase your income, you have to realize, okay, what are you doing with what you already have? If your business revenue is coming in and you're making good money, but it still feels inconsistent because of the expenses that you have incurred, you have to figure out how can you better steward your money in your business. So then that way you're either enhancing your services so that you can get paid more, but then also keeping efficiencies inside of your business expenses, whether it be your team, the software that you use, or other things. So then that way you can increase your profit margin. So then that way you can satisfy paying yourself, paying your taxes, paying off any debts if you have any, and then also maintaining cash on hand. In a previous video, I talked about why you can make money, but you can't keep it. That's a mindset block that you might be dealing with. And then I also have, you don't need another course or a coaching program or other things like that. Those can be helpful for you to really pinpoint, okay, what is it on a deeper level that I'm missing or I feel like I'm missing in my business? Because whenever I make more revenue, cleanly, it's already spent because of something else that I'm investing in. And I'm just keeping investing because I am delegating my trust in myself and trust from my calling to provide for others or to serve others by investing in things that don't move the needle, but then also you're paying for it because you're not able to pay yourself from your business, right? The very calling or the very skill that you have that God has given you, you're delegating aspects of it by over investing in other places rather than being a good steward of what you have, right? And then intentionally increasing your expenses based off of the needs that you have in your business to actually grow. So, with that being in place, I want us to think about practically what are ways that we are hindering ourselves from paying ourselves what we need from a CEO salary, and also mentally or energetically, what are we doing to delegate our trust from ourselves onto others? And it's also like wiping out your cash on hand in your business. Next, I want to share the 3 different structure breaks that service-based business owners especially go through when it comes to, not paying themselves consistently. So the first thing is revenue without structure. So revenue without structure means that your expenses scale with your revenue and your margin never stabilizes. So for service-based business owners, there is almost always a direct cost in your business. So what that means is however you earn a dollar, there is a cost directly related to earning that dollar. So for my business, I have a bookkeeping and fractional CFO firm. I have bookkeepers who do the work of bookkeeping, and I also have software that execute on the deliverables for my service. So if I don't have the margins correct, no matter how much I earn, my profit margin will be depleted no matter how much I earn because I'm not measuring it in a way that is sustainable for my business. So I talked about this in another episode. I will link it as well, but your direct cost should be just controlled because once you increase your revenue, your expenses will also increase. But if you control how much you're spending on that direct cost, it's not going to plummet your margin as you grow. Another mistake is the CEO pay blind spot. That means the owner pays themselves last from whatever is left, or there is no defined number. A big problem that I see with entrepreneurs is I've been on many calls, like discovery calls or like with new clients, things of that nature, asking the entrepreneur, what do you want to pay yourself? And usually that person does not know. No shame. However, you need to define what that number is. What does your lifestyle look like and what is required of your business so that you can sustain your lifestyle, okay? So the third thing that goes hand in hand with no defined number for CEO salary is there is no profit plan. So while a revenue goal exists, it's often random and there's no designed profit plan to execute on those goals. So I'm a big believer that a profit plan stems from the owner's salary, right? If your business is your main source of income or like a majority of your income personally, then it'll behoove you to have your profit plan start with what you need to pay yourself from your business. So whether that's 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, 12,500 a month, or let's say 120 a year, then that means your business needs to exceed, right, at least 240 to 250, even $300,000 to be able to sustain not only your pay, but your expenses, as well as taxes and maintaining your cash on hand. Most business owners don't actually see this happening in real time is because they're not tracking how money is moving month to month. So the problem repeats itself quietly and continuously. So here's what I want you to take from this video. Okay. Your business might not need more revenue right now. It might. But what you really need to do is understand the structure of your business because as it grows, you're just putting band-aids and bandages on a broken structure or an inadequate structure. In the next video, I'm going to show you how that one number can tell you exactly where you stand and how to calculate it in 5 minutes. Okay. It's called the margin percentage. And once you know it, you can't unknow it. So tune into the next video next week. See you soon. Bye.